and or the SAT. Again, if we're going back to Maple Mountain High School's website and you scroll down to ACT, SAT Prep, you'll click on that and it will bring you to this page here that gives you some nice test prep resources. It gives you the link to register for the ACT and to find out the test dates of the ACT. This page does not have information in regard to the SAT. So we're going to talk about both of these tests and see which test might be the best option for you. Sometimes students will take an ACT and not do super well on it, but they can take the SAT and do much better. So the only way really to find out what you're scoring better on is to take both tests. So at the end of your ninth grade year, you're going to take what's called an Aspire test. That test is basically a practice ACT. So how you score on that Aspire test can give you some good information how you might perform on the ACT. Again, your sophomore year, you will be given the option to take an ACT, a practice ACT test as well. You can take that test and again, kind of see how you score on that particular test. Your junior year, you will be taking a real ACT at the high school to be used for college admissions. So that happens in the spring of your junior year, and you can use that test score to submit to your college of choice. Now, the SAT is a different test. I'm going to scroll over to collegeboard.com. This is where you can find the information about the SAT. The SAT is a little bit different. It's structured a little bit different. It's scored a little bit different. And sometimes kids can perform better on an SAT as opposed to the ACT. So the SAT gives you a chance to take a test your sophomore year in October. It's called a PSAT right here. And that gives all sophomores an opportunity to take the PSAT and see how they might perform on the SAT. So if you take the Aspire test in ninth grade for the ACT and kind of get a feel for how you score there, and then in 10th grade, you take this PSAT in October, talk to your high school counselor to get registered for that, then you can compare those two tests and see which test might be exhibiting your strengths better. I'm going to scroll over here to this document that shows the differences between the ACT and the SAT. So an ACT is scored with a 36. So that's a high score for the ACT. You are tested in 4 sections: math, reading, English, and science. Those are the 4 sections that you will be tested in for the ACT. They'll calculate those scores and you'll get separate scores, high being a 36 in each of these areas. And then they will average all of the tests to give you your composite score of 36. The composite score is what colleges look at to determine scholarship information. The SAT is scored much differently. It's a 1600, and it is only tests you on 2 sections. You're going to be tested on math and you're going to be tested on reading and writing. So these 2 sections will be what you are tested on, and your top score is a 1600. You can look into the different options. If we go back to Maple Mountain High School's website and scroll down here, it gives some information about the differences between the ACT and the SAT. So if you click on that tab there, it's going to give you some information about each of those tests and which test might be a better fit for you to take. So you could spend some time and look at the differences there. If we go back to Maple Mountain High School's website, it also gives you some really great resources to practice taking tests for the ACT and practice taking tests for the SAT. Both of these tests become a little bit easier with the more time you spend at them. There are a lot of tips and tricks that you can use while you're taking these tests. And the more often you take the tests, the better you are, the more prepared you are, and the higher likelihood you have of getting a higher score in your test. There is no limit on how many times you can take these tests. You can take them as many times as you would like to. There is a fee involved, however, for taking the tests. There are fee waivers available, so talk to your counselor if you feel like you qualify for a fee waiver. And there is also something called a residual ACT. A residual ACT is where you can schedule with a university that you're interested in attending, making arrangements with them, and taking the ACT at their college on a specific date. Now, that ACT score will only be used for that college. You can't use it for other colleges. But sometimes that's a good way to take the ACT if there's one college in particular you're most interested in. Collegeboard.com also has some really great resources for practice tests for the SAT. So you can sit down and do some practice tests on the SAT to prepare for that. ACTstudent.org gives you practice tests for the ACT test. It tells you how to register and the dates. It gives you reminders for those. So both of these websites are really important to help you prepare for the test, know where to go to register for the tests, and find out information about your particular test.